Steve, so a pretty tough messaging coming from Beijing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Taiwan obviously was one of the main regional flashpoints that came up in many discussions. But essentially, this Shangri-La Dialogue that is being held in Singapore, actually in person for the first time since the pandemic, essentially allowed the United States and China to pitch their competing visions for stability in the region. And of course, Taiwan issue is one that is a divisive issue between China and the United States. But it's also an issue, just the geopolitical tug-of-war between China and the United States is a decision that many Asian nations don't want to have to make as far as support, either or. And that was something that came through as well. You know, the U.S. messaging generally with Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary who is there, who met with his counterpart Wei Fenghe on Friday. They had constructive military-to-military talks. But again, the issues of Taiwan are central. But essentially, the U.S. has taken a different approach than the Trump administration. Essentially, Lloyd Austin is saying that Asian nations are free to choose and chart their own paths. And both China and the United States, following that meeting on Friday, had competing speeches. Essentially, the United States and Lloyd Austin did attempt to seize on the shock, of course, of Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. But then again, China said the United States is the destabilizing force in the Western Pacific as well as in Eastern Europe. So you can see it's he said, she said kind of thing. But Taiwan, of course, is the flashpoint, the potential flashpoint. The United States, sources are telling us that the United States is hearing increasingly behind the scenes from top-level Chinese officials that the Taiwan Strait is increasingly becoming a no-go for U.S. naval vessels, saying that it is not necessarily international waters. Now, it has been long Beijing's assertion that Taiwan Strait is part of China's exclusive economic zone. However, we're hearing from military sources that it is rarely brought up in military-to-military talks as a main talking point. But increasingly now, with the rhetoric ramping up, the Taiwan Strait is increasingly being called on as a no-go zone for the United States by Beijing authorities. And that is alarming U.S. defense officials.